All right, dear fifth grade, here is a review of lesson 6.8. So I put out a really long lesson about patterns and fractions and mixed numbers. So why don't we shorten it a little bit and go step by step here, a little at a time. So, kind of going backwards, why don't we talk about patterns in whole numbers? Okay, first. So a pattern is just something that repeats. Okay, so, and when it's patterns with numbers, you're starting on the left side of a sequence and you're going to the right, and you're going to notice something about the numbers as they go across. Okay, so if we look at this first pattern with whole numbers, okay, it goes from 2 to 5, 5 to 7. Oops, let's fix that. It's supposed to be 3. Okay, sorry, 3 to 5, 5 to 7, 7 to 9, and then there's 2 missing blanks. So the way to do it, to see, okay, what's happening between these numbers, is to take the first 2 numbers and just subtract them. Of course, putting the biggest on top and the smallest on bottom, right? So if I do 5 minus 3 on the side, we should get the answer of 2. Well, okay, so if I go from 3 to 5, I'm going up, right? So technically I'm adding 2, right? Now we only subtract the numbers that are next to each other because we're just trying to find out, okay, what's the difference from this number to this number? And then let's try it with the next 2 numbers, 5 and 7. Well, if I do 7, because that's bigger, minus 5, I still get 2. So to get from 5 to 7, remember it's going up, so it means I'm adding 2. Now, if you can't see it, you could still subtract the next 2, but to get from 7 to 9, once again, it's adding 2. That's what you call a pattern. Look, it's repeating the same rule. And the rule, dear 5th graders, it has 2 parts. You have to tell me what kind of math are we doing and by how much, what number. So as you can see in each of these spots, we add and the amount or number is 2. Okay, so that's what a rule is. So now I can find the missing spots by following the rule, and I have to start with the number right before the missing spots. So 9, I'm going to have to do, I have to add 2. Well, if you do that, dear ones, way in your head, you get 11. And then you have to do the exact same thing again. You still add the same number in the rule, add 2, and I should get 13. Okay, so this is just a quick review about patterns with just whole numbers. So now you're doing the same exact thing, but now we're bringing in fractions and mixed numbers, and that's what we've been dealing with this past few weeks. Okay, so on page 395, we're going to go ahead and fill in the information for the examples there. Okay, so we're going to start, I'm going to use it bigger. We're going to start with, this is what they give you in step 1. They give you 3.5, 4 5/6, 6 1/6, 7.5. Yeah, 7.5. And then they want us to fill in 1, 2, 3, 4 more. 1, 2, 3, 4 more spots. Okay. Well, what they do first, okay, they kind of, I mean, it tells you in there, if you read the step 1 section, it tells you, you know what, right now it's really hard to figure out how it's going up or down because my fractions are different denominators. So what they're encouraging us to do, and I encourage you to do, which you'll have to do here, we are actually rewriting all of these into those spots so they have common denominators. Okay, so that's what those 4 empty spots are for. It's saying, hey, let's rewrite them so they have common denominators, and then they'll be easier to see things. So if I look at 2, 6, 6, and 2, I know that my common denominator is going to be 6, because I can turn 2 into 6, and then I don't have to do anything with these. I can just rewrite those how they are, right? So very simply, to turn 2 into 6, I multiply by 3, which means I multiply that by 3. And then same thing over here, I'm just moving that over. 2 times 3 is 6 times 3. Okay, so you have to start with this one first. So I'm gonna do black. So the first one, actually, I'm gonna rewrite them underneath so it's easier to see. So this now turns into 3 and 3/6. This I can keep what it is, 4 and 5/6. This is 6 and 1/6. And then this turns into 7 and 3/6. Okay, so now we've got our numbers. And so far it's kind of easy because I want to start thinking about the rule. Okay, this is step 2. So this is step 1. So in those empty or those blue spots, fill in. So these are the blue spots under the, you should see like arrows like this. Okay, so you're going to fill in all those empty. There should be 4 in a row. Okay. What we need to know now, we need to figure out, okay, what's the rule? Well, if I go from the left to the right, I see it goes from 3 to 4 to 6 to 7. So am I going up or down, 5th grade? We're going up. That means I know we're going to be adding something, okay? So on the lines, okay, in step 2, I'd like you to write rule, okay? And if it helps, 2 lines. I know we're adding, so add. But now in that step 2 section, you can write on the lines or you can write on the side to the right. We have to do some math to figure out, okay, well, how much is it going up every time? So you take the 2 numbers next to each other. I'm going to take 4 and 5/6, and I'm going to subtract the one before it, 3 and 3/6. So I can do my fractions. 5 minus 3 is 2/6. And then 4 minus 3 is 1. Well, that's great. I'm glad I got that answer. But I have to prove it and make sure that it's correct. So I have to at least subtract 2 more numbers that are next to each other. Okay? So I'm actually going to jump over here and do these 2 that are next to each other just to see if I'm right. So I'm going to do 7 and 3/6 minus 6 and 1/6. And 3 minus 1 is 2. Denominator stays the same. 7 minus 6 is 1. I get the same thing. So it just helps to prove the fact that, oh, okay, it's going up by 1 and 2/6 every time. Now, I can reduce this because I look at 2 and I look at 6 and they're both even, which means I can divide them out by 2. So if you want the official final answer for how much we're adding, it's 1 and 1/3 because you're dividing by 2, divide by 2. But if you leave it 1 and 2/6, right now I'm not going to care because I want you to be able to find the pattern and to be able to manipulate these things. So don't worry about reducing yet, okay? So if you keep it 1 and 2/6, that would be perfect too. Now that we know our rule, we need to add 1 and 2/6. Well, here's step 3. Okay, now I want you to, they want us to find 2 more. So just kind of, I mean, you have all that information there in step 3. After the 7.5, okay, they want us to find 2, what are the next 2 numbers it would be? Okay, and I'm just gonna kind of separate this. So you have the number you're starting with or ending with here. You take this and you add the rule to it. So I can do the work underneath here on the side, but you have to do some work here. I'm gonna add 1 Oh, but it's 7.5. Uh-oh. So I'm going to add 1 and 2/6. But I need common denominators. So I'm going to multiply this by 3 and this by 3, which makes it 3/6. Okay, so if I add 3/6 plus 2/6, I get 5/6. And then 7 plus 1 is 8. So my next number is going to be 8 and 5/6. And then all you have to do is add another 1 and 2/6 to that. So I'm going to do that over here, guys, okay? So 8 and 5/6 plus 1 and 2/6. 5 plus 2 is 7/6, and then 8 plus 1 is 9. Now this is where, look at this, this is where our skill in changing impropers to mixed numbers comes in. So you're taking your 7 and you're dividing it by 6. 6 goes into 7 one whole time. Minus 6. There's 1 left over. Remember, draw a fraction bar next to it. The remainder goes above and the 6 goes underneath. So this is 1 and 1/6. Cross that off. Add 1 and 1/6. So your total is, this is nothing, plus 1/6. And that's 9 plus 1 is 10. So this turns into 10 and 1/6. Okay, so on page 395, you should be able to fill in all those missing spots. And then it says at the bottom, so Mr. Patrick will use blank ounces of chili powder in the 6th batch. 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th. So your final answer is 10 and 1/6 for the bottom of that page. Okay, so for today, after you've watched all of this and you filled in page 395, which I'd like to see that, I would like you to complete page 396, which is pretty much the same thing. You're filling in the example and everything on the top, and then you'll have A and B on the bottom. So just read through, follow the directions, and go back to my video to help you maybe understand what's going on. All right, so God's blessings, you can do this, but it's just patterns, so take your time. And so page 395 and 396 are what I'd like you to complete for today.